So I thought it would be a good idea to cover the 3 marks of existence. Now, if you can think back to when we had a look at kissagotomy. Now, this was the story of a woman who struggled to bear a child, and after trying, she eventually conceived. She had a child. She wanted to please her mother-in-law, and unfortunately, the baby got ill and died. She mourned her child so much, and she wanted her child to be alive so much that she went to the Buddha. And when she went to the Buddha to ask how our child could come alive again, could reborn, lots of things, the Buddha told her to go to each house in the village and ask for a mustard seed from a house that had no death. Once she had went to all these houses, probably about halfway through, she started to realise every house that she went to had experienced death in some way or some form. Now, this story is very significant for Buddhists today to understand this. When she went back to the Buddha, she said that she had laid her son to rest, and she knew that everyone experienced suffering. And the Buddha turned around and she eventually became a nun as well, became part of the Sangha. Now, there are lots of quotes that you will come across when you are looking at the 3 marks of existence. For example, in the Dhammapada in 277 from Gautama Buddha, it says, all conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. Now, using those quotes when you are filling in your assessments and filling in your Nat 5 and higher questions, it's very important for you to use. It's an extra KU mark that you might not be able to find elsewhere. You can also find it in Dhammapada 278 as well. Now, I am going to go through the content, but I'm not necessarily going to give you any tasks during this time. It's just to listen to my voice, which I'm sure you will be loving. And our first 3 marks of existence we're going to come to is anicca, which means impermanence. Now, if you think of things that are permanent in our lives, if you work backwards, you can probably find that they've not been permanent. Even if we look at religion today, if you look at Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, Sikhism, they all have a start date. And that's the exact same as objects that you'll find around your house. You will find flowers. Flowers start from a seed, they sprout, they flower, they wilt, and then they die and they go back to the ground. Even our houses are not permanent. Even if you look at the oldest monument in your city, at one point it was grass, it was land, it never had anything there before it. And if you think about our origins topics, when we look at the Big Bang, you will find that we actually all started, or what we think we started from, is a hot soup of condensed elements. Now, anicca is very important for a Buddhist person because it explains that everything is constantly changing, eroding, or growing, and that what we see in the world today is not actually permanent, but is seen as an illusion. Now, another reason why it is important for a Buddhist person is that unhappiness is actually caused by not accepting this and believing that things are permanent. So you can link it to some of the other 3 marks of existence that we're going to cover. And people try to keep things the same in order to make themselves happy. And actually, it's inevitable that things are not going to be permanent in our life. Now, if you look at the example of us being in isolation at the moment, it is definitely not going to be permanent, and eventually you will all go back to school and you will be able to continue your education normally. Now, I hope you are all getting on fine with everything around the house and navigating home learning for your first week. Congratulations for those that have got it down. Now, the most significant part of the Kisagotami story for a Buddhist person will be that they needed Kisagotami needed to experience anicca to understand it. The Buddha is a bit different from the teachings of Jesus. The stories of Jesus you can learn from and change from, and that's it. However, the Buddha believes that you have to learn things through experiencing them. So you've got a wee bit of a leeway. You can have your mistakes as long as you learn from them, and you need to experience anicca to understand it. So that is our first mark of existence. I'm trying to talk a wee bit slower than what I do in class so you are able to get it. Thankfully, you can pause this as you go. Now, our second mark of existence I'm going to have a look at is dukkha, which links lovely to anicca, and it shows the suffering in the world. It's part of human nature to experience suffering. It's just natural for us to go through periods of time where there is upset, there is unhappiness, there's discontent. And if you think about things that aren't satisfying, you can look at, example, a bar of chocolate. Yes, it's going to help you to start with. It's going to make you feel a wee bit better. But eventually, over time, if you were to eat a bar of chocolate every day, your weight might increase. And it doesn't bring about happiness. Now, the root of suffering is attachment. This comes from the Buddha. Now, accepting that life is ultimately unfulfilling is understanding that suffering exists in Buddhism. For a Buddhist, it is very important that they accept that suffering happens. And if they don't accept suffering happens in their life, then they can link into that happiness is an illusion. Also, suffering there is linking to impermanence, because life is seen as impermanent and life is seen as an illusion. It's all the things in life which are unsatisfactory. So suffering, dukkha, and the three marks of existence covers everything in your life that you're going to find is unsatisfactory. It isn't really about things either. For example, it's our understanding of the pet's death that causes suffering. It's not actually the pet dying. Clinging to the fact it was here and now isn't cause of suffering, because we want things to be the way they were. Accepting that all things are impermanent, for example, anicca, allows us to reduce and move past suffering and understanding that's important. Now, I'm not saying that you have not to be upset when your pet dies or a family member dies, but it's more for a Buddhist person. If they understand that it's going to cause suffering, then they can deal with it. But if they don't understand the illusion, then they will struggle with it severely, and it could cause them to slip into bad karma. It can cause the three root poisons, the ignorance, hatred, and greed to come in, and it can also cause a lot of tanha, which is seen as desire. Now, our third mark of existence we're going to have a look at is anatta. This is one of the hardest concepts for three marks of existence for us to understand, mainly because it goes into the philosophical part of Buddhism. And to be honest with you, the Buddha doesn't really bother about the big questions as much. But the way we try and explain it is understanding what is the you part of you, what makes you you. Now, if we look at a chariot, it's got two wheels, it's got the basket where you would sit in, got the big long rods that would be attached to the ox that would be pulling the chariot. Now, if you look at the wheels separately from everything, is this actually the chariot? Is the basket the chariot? Or is the long rod that's attached to the ox the part of the chariot? But altogether it seems to make the chariot, but everything's separate. You don't call a wheel a chariot, because if you put it on a bike, it doesn't make sense. Now, for a Nietzsche, it means that we have no permanent soul. This shows the difference between Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and Buddhism. It says that nothing is permanent at all. We know that from a Nietzsche, but now we look at anatta, we know that we do not have a soul. This can be a hard part to grasp, because when people have a look at the body and you look at the wheel of samsara, you assume that there is some part of you that is going from one realm to the next. For a Buddhist, it's very important for them to know that everything, including yourself, is changing. There is no you. The part of you that you think is you is an illusion. In class, I would use the example as you're not the same person who was outside my classroom to inside my classroom, because you've learned something different. Your chemicals in your brains are different. Usually there's someone snoozing away or attempting to snooze away. Therefore, their consciousness is totally changing. Each part of you is affected by anicca, so impermanence. When you have a look at how your body's changing constantly, your weight fluctuates, your mood fluctuates, your feelings fluctuate. Someone in the class might irritate you, and then that just sends you off on one. Maintaining belief that you is permanent leads to suffering. If there is no you, then there is no need to be selfish at all, because you don't necessarily matter. That would be the viewpoint of a Buddhist monk, or someone who follows Buddhism more seriously. They would know that they are not significant in the world today because they are not permanent. There's nothing permanent about themselves at all. Now, talking about how we're constantly changing links to the 5 skandhas. These are things that are constantly changing and interacting with each other. You is simply a label for the current state of you. For example, 5 skandhas. We'll have a look at that more later. Now, the fundamental difference between religions and Buddhism is that Buddhism do not believe in eternal soul at all. So even when we talk about nibbana, there's no eternal soul that's linked with this. Christians, Muslims, and Hindus all believe in an eternal soul. Now, if you're looking at anicca, anatta, and dukkha, just to summarise for you, anicca means impermanence and everything's changing. Anatta means the denial of a permanent soul, and dukkha means suffering. Now, there is links between all of these, and I'll just briefly go over them. Links between anicca and anatta. For example, everything changes over time, then nothing within me can remain the same. And links between anatta and dukkha are a little bit stronger. We get emotionally attached to the people we like and love. As a result, we can feel unhappy when people change. We also feel unhappy when told, when we try to hold on to what we used to be. For example, when you get a wee bit older, you do want to be younger, and that can cause some suffering there. Links between anicca and dukkha. For example, we suffer when people we love die. The thought of our own impermanence generally can cause suffering, and the aging process can cause suffering. A practice that can link with the 3 marks of existence is a mandala. Now, what I can do is get you to do some colouring in, which will be fantastic for your mental health, and hopefully you've got colouring in pens and pencils. If not, colouring pens. If not, highlighters, pens, just anything. You can even take some time to grab a plain bit of paper and draw it yourself, or use your paint feature on a website. Now, mandalas are very significant for a Buddhist person today. It's a practice that's done by monks. You can see from the video that I've attached to your documents. This video will show you the intricate part of making sand mandalas. Now, mandalas are when you would take such a long time. They said it can take up to 5 years to practice to do mandalas or mandalas. Creating the mandala can take weeks, days, depending on how intricate it is. And once they've completed making this mandala, they will destroy it. It shows the significance of anicca in Buddhism. It shows that there has to be non-attachment. There's no attachment at all. And also that things are not permanent. To create a mandala requires hours of focus. And it creates such a beautiful piece of art. If you take some time and Google some of these pictures, they're incredible. It's also very relaxing and therapeutic to be taking time out to create something so beautiful. So when you are creating your mandalas, when you're taking 5-10 minutes, just drawing them out or taking some time to do this, it can actually benefit your mental health as well, giving you a time where you're not going to be doing anything but focusing on making things look pretty. That's it. There's not much depth in it at all. But permanence is an illusion for a Buddhist person, and all things must inevitably come to an end. Therefore, they do destroy it, and their work is completely destroyed by the end of it. Now, if you've got any questions, email me. You all know my email, and I'll be happy to do anything for you that can help. I hope this helps, and I hope you are staying safe and staying in class.